On a previous video, I showed you how to get pictures that look like this for eBay or Craigslist. By using material that you can get from a home improvement store or a hobby store, you can get pictures that have a white seamless background and are great product photography photos. Well, today I'm going to show you how to do product photography in a slightly different way, and you'd get a slightly different look. Also good for eBay or Craigslist. You can get pictures that look like this or like this. So let's go ahead and take a look on how to do that. All right, on today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to get pictures that look like this or this. Great product photography videos, good for eBay and Craigslist. And the way to do that is rather simple. Now you're going to need to have some gear, and I'm going to show you that in just a little bit. The most important thing is the light. And if you look at these photos, the one thing that makes it look different and stand out from just a snapshot is the light. Now that was really important to control when we were taking pictures like this, to not make it look like a snapshot. But in order to get this, I want you to pay attention to the light. And in order to get the light to look a certain way, you'll notice that in this stuffed animal's eyes, there is a light source over here, and there's another light source over there, and that the light on the shadows here is soft, okay? And then we've got a black background on there. So let's go ahead and take a look at my setup so you'll see how I got pictures that look like this. And also over here you can see some light coming from a source, and again nice soft shadows over here, which makes it look nice and appealing. So let's go ahead and take a look to see how I got that. Here's the equipment that you're going to need. Okay, this was taken at this time actually, and you'll notice that it's not actually dark. You might have made the assumption by seeing the images that it was taken at nighttime when the rest of the light was dark. It wasn't. It was taken during this time right now. And the reason why I was able to black out the background was because I was using enough light close up to the subject so that this background light actually faded to darkness or blackness. The other thing you'll notice is I've got certain bits of equipment here. These are light modifiers. I've got 2 speed lights and a third one off to the side. And then I've got my camera on a tripod, and then I've got a controller which actually controls these 2 speed lights over here. And then I've just got a table. I didn't have any black cloth or anything around it. It was just the way I shot it right now. Now, in order to get this thing to hang the way it is, and it's important that this is coming from above because that's your sort of skylight, if you will. And then this one's going to illuminate at least one side of the product so that we can get a little bit of detail. But in order to hang that over here, you're going to need this pole arm. So let's take a closer look to see what that looks like. As you can see, this was just done in one of the rooms of my house. I put this back here just so that I could give myself a little bit more of an advantage of having darkness back there, and I wouldn't have to fight it because my walls are rather light, and if it was coming through the back, then I'd be able to see it. So I just put that back there. And then this is what's important to hold the light above your object here is this pole arm. And that's a specialty item. You're probably not going to be able to kind of rig that. But once you have one of these and just a simple light stand, then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to balance it or counterbalance it, because this ends up being, I mean, it's not really heavy, but it's on a long lever here, so it ends up putting quite a bit of force and can easily tip over this the stand. What you want basically is so that this stand doesn't want to tip that way or this way. You want to balance it so basically the weight is going down, but not really putting any stress on these legs. Not a lot anyway. A little bit, not a problem. But you don't want this thing tipping either that way or in that direction. So here's what I use. There's a little carabiner, and then I hook my backpack. And the reason the backpack is open is because as I start to add this portion here or extend this arm and this whole thing wants to tip over, then what I do is I take another book and add it into the open backpack, or I take a book out of the open backpack, and then I can balance this to pretty much neutral so that it doesn't feel like it's going to tip that way or that way. Once you've got this all set, now you've got your pole arm extended over and you're ready to begin your shooting. Here's a close-up of what one of these soft boxes do. Now, the soft box has one purpose, and that is to spread the light into, on the other side, there's a big white surface, and it makes a big white square, which is what you were able to see inside the reflection of that stuffed animal's eyes. Those big white squares are what make the light soft. It's not making the light dimmer that makes it soft. It's not pulling the light farther away. In fact, that's the opposite. You want to have it as close as possible. It's the size of that white surface. And so on the other side of this white surface is a big white square. Over here, and this is a specialty item, not very expensive though, you can get them on Amazon, is, and this actually came with this. So this flash bracket that's holding the speed light actually came with the soft box. And then all I did was I attached my speed light here. I'm using a Yongnuo speed light, and it has a wireless connectivity to the thing that's on the camera. And so the camera will trigger this thing, it'll flash, and that is one of the two flashes I use. Over here is a close-up of the camera, and since my other two cameras were actually being photographed, I wasn't using them at this time. I was using a third camera, a smaller camera, but I was able to get great pictures nonetheless. As you'll notice right now, the scene, the way it's lit, everything's lit by natural light, so there is no strobe going on. So I can see everything on here. Well, something that's not covered in this tutorial that you're going to have to know how to do is how to bring down the ambient light by using the camera controls. And you can bring down the ambient light in manual mode. I'll tell you right now, what I did was I set this to 1/200th of a second, and I set the f-stop to 8 on this particular camera. I also set the ISO to 80, and so that worked out for this particular scene. And what it ended up doing was making the entire scene so dark and black that you wouldn't be able to see anything on this screen. Well, once I took a picture and fired these two strobes up here, then it lit up only the area that I needed to be lit. Everything else in the background actually stayed dark, and that's the trick that you need to know. One thing I wanted to point out here, this wireless remote, also an inexpensive Yongnuo, is tied to this flash, and it's tied to the overhead flash as well. And each flash, each speed light, is on its own channel. What that means is I can control the intensity of this light separate from the intensity of that light. And you do that by changing the intensity here on this one control pad. That is super, super helpful. You know, when I'm doing portrait photography and I'm taking pictures and I want to balance the left side or the right side lighting, then I can control each one independently without having to actually touch the speed lights. Super, super useful. All right. So this once again is how it looks. And I've got this light, again, being controlled by one channel of this thing. This speed light being controlled by a different channel, so I can vary. And then what I do is I just take the pictures, and I see how it looks. After I see how it looks, I can either move this entire light stand over here, left or right, up or down. Same thing with this. I can make adjustments on the ball head here and move it either higher or lower. One thing that you should know is the closer you get to your subject, the closer you get to your subject with your light source, the softer the light will be. And once again, this is these are big panels of light sources. Okay, one thing I realized was there was light coming from this side and this side, and I really wanted to pop in a little bit extra, just a little kiss, little bit of light. So these two guys over here were actually firing quite high. And then what I did is I just simply handheld this, and you guessed it, this is on a third channel. This little guy here can actually go up to 6 channels. Now I can have all 3 on one channel if I want, but in this case I actually had an A, a B, and a C channel so that I can fire at different intensities. And this guy here I had at the lowest, as you'll see, 1/128, the lowest. So it was just a touch of light, which is exactly what I need for a little bit of sparkle on the lens over here and just a little bit of shine. That's all I wanted. I realized my pictures were not looking the way that I wanted to, and so that's what I did. I handheld this, and then I fired this just a little bit extra light here. Here's one more look from the product view. So here are the two cameras right here, and then here is an overhead, and that's a big white large piece, a surface area, and here's the one that's on the side. And so by shooting with these soft boxes, I'm able to get the look that I want. And here's one more look at it. Once again, you'll notice that these are as close as possible, just out of the range of the lens here. I mean, if I lowered it a little bit more, you'd start to see it on the actual image over there. And the same with this as well, as close as you possibly can get. If you put it closer and it's too bright, then you just make the adjustments on the speed lights themselves using this remote, and then you can bring down. By the way, you don't have to use this remote, but you do need to have some sort of wireless transmitter. So if you happen to have a remote that doesn't allow you to change it, you'll just have to go up here and change it manually, which is very possible, but I think it's a little bit more difficult than just being able to change it by standing at one spot. All right, once again, these are the images you can get. Nice soft light. You can control the light once again from how close it is and with that remote control. So you'll be able to get shots like this or this. All right, hopefully that was helpful. And by the way, if you'd like to learn more on how to make great images using your lightweight, agile, and nimble photography gear, head on over to pocketlenses.com. Got lots of free resources over there, articles, videos, and a podcast. All right, talk to you later.